Okay, today we're going to be learning about the Haggadah. Last year, as we discussed at length, we discussed more of the beginning of the Haggadah, and we put up Divrei Torah on Kaddish, Orchatz, Parpas, Yachatz. We put up ideas on each. Now we're going to focus on lachma, anya, the beginning of Magid. Magid starts off with something that has absolutely nothing to do with the seder itself. Nothing to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim, with the Exodus from Egypt. Nothing at all. Lachma anya. It's very unique because it's in Aramaic also. The Haggadah is in Hebrew, but lachma anya is in Aramaic. There are many points to address over here. First of all, why is lachma anya in Aramaic? That's the question that begs to be asked. Secondly, we have to address, why are we waiting for this invitation? We already began our journey. We did Kaddish. We sang the Simonim. Kaddish, Orchatz, Kaddish, Orchatz. We already said it. We made Kiddush. We washed our hands. We ate the karpas. We split the matzah. And now we're inviting? Seems like they missed almost a quarter of the Simonim over here. So why is this invitation coming in later? We have to address. Furthermore, why specifically on the night of the Seder are we inviting people? What about by other holidays that we have? Why specifically on the Seder? I'm aware of around 20 answers to that question. Yeah, 20. That's right. A lot going on over here. We have to discuss the essence of what it means to be Jewish, to be selfless. Someone who is feasting, who could invite others, who has the need to host others but doesn't, is a hypocrite. We're going to have to discuss that as well. Additionally, we say in lachma anya, let's just review the text. This is the bread of poverty, the bread of poverty that our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Anyone who's poor, let him come and eat. Anyone who needs, let him come and be involved with the Korban Pesach. How does that apply nowadays? Let him be involved with the Korban Pesach. We don't have the Korban Pesach anymore. Halachmanya continues and says, now we're here, next year we'll be in Israel. We'll be there with the Beis HaMikdash. Now we're slaves, in the future we'll be free. Isn't that repetitious? This year, we're not in Israel with the Beis HaMikdash. Next year, we will be. This year, we're slaves. Next year, we'll be free. Seems a little repetitious. What's going on over here? We have to ask also, what's the reason that we eat matzah? It's pretty clear from lachma anya opening up the Seder. It's the bread that they ate. It's the bread that they ate when they were in Egypt, our ancestors. Wait a second. Later on in the Haggadah, Rabbi Shimon ben Gavriel says, Kol shaloyamar shlosha dvarim elu yotzi dechavos Eloheim Pesach matzah mora. You don't say Pesach matzah mora, you don't fulfill your obligation. It's elaborated on over there. What is matzah shalo hisbik b'seichem lahachmitz? The bread couldn't leaven. They ate the bread when they were running out of Egypt. They didn't have time to wait for it to leaven, so they ate basically raw bread. So, we could ask a question over here. The Haggadah over here seems to contradict itself. In one place, it's the bread that they ate in Egypt for hundreds of years. There's a discussion why they ate specifically matzah anyways, and why they were fed that. Another is, no. Matzah we ate because we were rushed out. Wait a second. If a person would step back and make a calculation, okay, what do we have to do over here? We could commemorate, we could officially make well known that we're going to eat matzah for one reason. We can't do two. One reason is going to be the famous reason. What's the famous reason? The one that's accepted? Oh, because they ate it quickly when they ran out. So because of something that happened just for a few hours, now you're going to commemorate that for thousands of years, not something that they did for hundreds of years? Atmaha. It's the explanation over here. Why are we commemorating specifically something that was only done for a short period of time? Makes no sense. Let's address one question at a time. Obviously, we're not going to be able to cover all of these topics. There's a lot going on in this opening part, this crucial part of the Haggadah of lachma anya. Let's try to scratch the surface. That was all introduction. Anytime anything is in Aramaic, you always have to ask why. We discussed in the Shiurim on Pirkei Avos, there are several Mishnayos throughout Pirkei Avos that are in Aramaic. And those Mishnayos, you always have to ask why. Al toimer lekishef neshne shem aloiti pana. Hafich ba dekula ba. There's several Mishnayos that are in Aramaic. You always have to ask why. Why is lachma in Aramaic? In our davening that we do on a daily basis is all in Hebrew. Yeah. The parts of davening that aren't in Aramaic, you have to ask why. Yiskadel v'yiskadei shmeira. Why is that in Aramaic? Tosefos and Berachos, Gimel and Aleph. You can pull the code. Why is that in Aramaic? Baruch Shemay. Why is that in Aramaic? Anytime something is in Aramaic, you always have to ask why. Why is lachma in Aramaic? Enough of the introduction and the fluff. Let's get straight into it. Go for 6 answers. Get straight to the point over here. Answer number 1.
Wait.
Comes along the Avudraham. Question, David?
No, just before I forget, I was going to say, we open the door for Eliyahu and Navi, but why don't we open the door for lachma?
Oh. So you are asking a question to which we already discussed last year, if you recall, and you could say, why do we open the door of Eliyahu Hanavi at the end of the seder?
And also now,
you remember the answer? You have to go back 30 minutes here. That's why it's recorded forever, so you could go back and enjoy the Tainak and Aisha.
No, but why don't we open the door for this too? We should open the door for this.
Yeah. Well, why don't we? First of all, second of all, what are we doing in our house? Oh, private property, residential, private property. Anyone who wants to come. What do you mean? Get out to the street. A guy's sitting on a 10-acre property. His house is 2 acres back from the sidewalk. Anyone hear me? Meanwhile, his house is gated. He's got bushes blocking so no one can see. You look at the $20 million houses in the Hamptons. You're gonna see squat. You got gates in front of it and big bushes and trees. Right? So what are you doing? What are we doing with lachma over here?
Let's go to the street.
Comes along the Avudraham and explains how lachma is in Aramaic. Simple. The angels don't understand it. The angels do not understand Aramaic, and therefore they won't prosecute us and say that we're unworthy of this beautiful prayer. By the way, I highly recommend that everyone takes a look at Tosefos, Gimel and Aleph in Berachos over there at the bottom. Course recordings available on rabbiblan.com under the Gemara section on the entire Maseches Berachos, including 3a over there at the bottom where we discussed that Tosefos and went into this a little bit more. Actually, I gave a shiur once at my father Shalom's recite after the minyan on why Kaddish is in Aramaic, multiple languages. That was like 13, 14 years ago, but it wasn't recorded.
You think
Anyways,
yeah. Prayer?
Yeah.
Prayer?
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to be in Yerushalayim? You don't want the Beis HaMikdash? That's not... Okay. Yeah. It's a dual purpose over here. The question on this Avudraham is obvious. Why then is the rest of the Haggadah in Hebrew? Why are we worried about the prosecution from the angels? Comes along the Birchas Avraham and says, the main protection we need is when you start the mitzvah. Once you start, you don't need the protection because the mitzvah itself will already save us. You need that start. Talelei Oros quotes this on page 9. In other words, the hardest thing a lot of times, it says in the Mechilta, Rashi quotes, Kol haskalos kashos, all beginnings are hardest. You look around, people, what's the problem? Once they start learning, they can continue. The problem is getting them in the base medrash in the first place and getting them once they're there to stop schmoozing and to stop with the coffee room, but to sit down and learn. Once you start, then the rest will be easy. You got to start it. If you start it, then already HaKadosh Baruch Hu will help and you'll get a Maradik Shat Dishmai. Tosefos, another Tosefos in Berachos on Zayin and Aleph, points out that Bilaam knew the exact moment when Hashem Kiviyachol was able to get angry. Oh, asked Tosefos, what could you do in a millisecond? What could you do? So Tosefos in his second answer says, once you start, then you could finish it. You need to start with the green light. Once you have the green light, you could go through. The same applies over here. Similarly, by Hilchos kriyas Shema and Shemoneh Esrei, we discussed in siman Nun Ches 58 as well as Pei Tes over there in 89. See RabbiBlan.com for more details on that. Once you start reciting Shema, davening Shemoneh Esrei before the end time that you could say it, before Sosman, you could finish. The Mishna Berura over there doesn't hold that way, as well as many other Gedolei Achronim. But many use this Tosefos in a random Haggadah in the Gemara and Berachos to have halachic implications. That once you start with the green light, you could finish. In a pressing situation, one could rely on this. And as long as he finishes before the last time when you could say Shema and Shemoneh Esrei, you're in the green. You're good.
When you finish it, what? Finish the last. Say
as long as you started, let's say for the last time you could say Shema is 9:31 a.m. Boom, you could start right now and finish it. Even though you're going to finish it at 9:33, as long as you started before, you could finish it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fire.
Side question.
Yeah.
So the Shemoneh Esrei part, do you have
Yeah.
to finish all Shemoneh Esrei? Can you get that little kind inside?
No, you don't need to finish it. According to the
No,
Mishna Berura, you got to finish the whole thing. You got to finish the whole thing.
Doesn't matter about kasha, so
Yeah,
Okay,
the whole
just
thing.
asking.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Now, comes
How-
along. Let's get back
How
to
widely
this.
is that held?
What?
How widely is that held that we say that if you started before the zman, you can finish it after?
How widely? What'd you say?
How widely is that held? Like, is that how
Again, some poskim hold that way. And in a pressing situation, you could rely on that. If you want to know more of the halachic details, I already referenced where they are. Okay, let's continue. The Ritva also says that lachma is in Aramaic in order that the angels won't prosecute us. There's another question on this Ritva over here, which is the problem with this explanation of the Ritva is Gavriel taught 70 languages to Yosef. Wait a second. If the angels don't know Aramaic, how did Gavriel teach him 70 languages? There's an obvious balabata Shut Eretz over here.
One of the 7.
Right, exactly. Easy comment. Right. Ah, very good. Answer number 2, why is lachma in Aramaic?
Wait, what was that there? What was that? No, what was that last?
What was that? Because it was
I know,
70 languages, not including Hebrew. Hebrew
Yeah.
wasn't one of the 70 languages.
yeah.
Answer number 2 comes along one of the Gedolei Rishonim, my favorite, the Shiboli Haleket. One of my favorites. Halachma is in Aramaic so that the demons, so they don't attack us. Now, what's the obvious kasha on this?
What's going on here?
No, not what's going on here. That's another question.
Okay.
It's Lal Shemurim. You're going to get guarded over here Pesach night. Some hold you don't even, about Shema, Hamapil, maybe you're, what's going on over here? You worried about that? Explanation is, only guarded from things that aren't invited. But if we invite them in, once you say, Kol dichvin yesiv anyone who's hungry, let him come and eat. Anyone who's poor, who needs food, let him come. Everyone's invited, including the demons. That's why halachmanya is Aramaic. So that they won't understand this invitation and they won't come to the seder and prosecute. The truth of the matter is that this really applies a lot with the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara as well. What's the problem? When we invite the Yetzer Hara in. A lot of times, we discussed in the past in Parshas Yisro, how is it possible not to get jealous? Even thinking that you want something that someone else has is jealousy. Whatever it is, spouse, a car, a house, a yacht, a private jet, all these items. So we discussed many reasons how it's possible. And the Chinuch says, even just by mentally thinking you want something, you're over an Isser, you're violating the Torah prohibition. If you attain the item, that's another prohibition. Okay? There are two independent Isurim Deoraisa prohibitions over there. So towards the end of that, we discussed over there how thoughts. Sometimes you should get jealous. Someone is learning a lot of Torah HaKadosh, get jealous of him. You gotta get jealous. He's doing mitzvahs the right way, he's helping out other people, get jealous. Right? The Aruch Hashulchan says, get jealous for that. Towards the end over there, we discussed what's the explanation of the Gemara in Yuma and Kovches. Gemara says that a Hiru Averu, you come every day, 9:15, we're here, except for Shabbos and Sunday. It says that a Hiru Averu is kasha, that thinking of a sin is worse than the Averu itself, is worse than the actual sin.
With expensive.
It's worse than the sin. So if Aaron thinks, oh, I want to murder David, that's worse than him actually murdering him. What's the pshat over here? And how is it even possible for a person to control his thoughts? So we discussed that over there at length. Different explanations to that Gemara. How is it possible to control your thoughts? Also, a thought jumps in your mind, you see something that you're not supposed to be looking at. The weather's getting warmer. The Yetzer Hara starts bubbling. People they're dressing like it's a beach on a regular street. You don't need to go to the beach anymore. And you see something that you shouldn't look at. And then that little thing inside of us called the Yetzer Hara starts bubbling up. How do you stop that from happening? How do you stop that? Zok the honor of Yosef over there in the bottom of the Ein Yaakov and that Gemara. When that thought comes in our head, that we're not held accountable for. That thing came in there, loy hein v'loy secharon. We didn't ask for that. We didn't want to see that. We just saw it. We heard it. We heard something. It shouldn't have been said. Someone cursed. Whatever. They did something. They said something that was lashon hara. We heard it. Can't stop that. No backsies. However, if we allow that thought to continue to evolve, continue to blossom, that we're held accountable for. Past few years, we had a lot of forest fires over here. California, then you had the Israel, those were from terrorists, that was someone else. Over here, over there, over there, over here. How did the forest fire start? One guy takes a cigarette butt and he throws it on the floor. Boom! Finished. You got to put that fire out before it starts cooking, before it starts burning. We got to put the fire of the Yetzer Hara out before he starts burning us to death. Those types of thoughts we're held accountable for. When we allow them to continue to develop, that's going to be the issue. What on earth does this have to do with lachma, anya? The idea is that so that the demons won't attack us. Pesach is Lel Shemurim. We're guarded from things that are uninvited, but once we invite the Yetzer Hara in, once we allow him to continue to mentally control us and then take over what we physically do, that's going to be a problem. By the way, that's one of the explanations why thinking of a sin is worse than seeing yourself. You're thinking, IHOP, cheeseburger, it looks so good. Just using an example. We don't have problems with this nowadays, but everyone, whatever a person's issue is, apply that to, coming late to Shachris and skipping Psukkah de Zimra, not coming early. All of these Yetzer Haras, what happens? So then, they're all issues. We say, what's the big deal? You invite it in, it's going to keep coming. Once you sin, you said, okay, I had that cheeseburger. You're done. You're not going to eat more. You're full. Once you sin, you already came late to Shachris. It's over. Okay, finished. You're not going to do it. But if a person keeps thinking, oh, it's so much more convenient, davening is literally 10 minutes quicker every single day. I've come 4 minutes before Baruch Hu, put the talus tefillin on, I go Baruch Shema Hashem Yishtabach, here we go, home free, saved 11 minutes. If he thinks like that, he's going to do that every single day. One time I went to a minion factory, every 15 minutes they had Shachris. So as usual, I'm 5 minutes early to Shachris. I see a guy, he's pulling in, and I'm thinking, wait a second, the Shachris minion that's starting in 5 minutes is over there. Why are you going to the Shachris minion that started 10 minutes ago? Oh, I know why. Because he's Yetzer Hara, got to his thoughts. That's why. You'll tell me, wait a second, Sarach Parnasa, he has to go to work, he's in a rush, he has to go to... But there were 4 other Shachrises before that. Come on, what's going on over here? We have to make sure that he's uninvited. Lachma is Aramaic. Why? So that they don't attack us. Why would the demons attack us? Because they're invited. Once you invite the Yetzer Hara in, you got to be careful. Answer number 3.
Wait, so why isn't more to feel in Aramaic? If we don't invite why wouldn't we want to use that teretz for other things, no?
What, the demons?
Yeah.
They're not invited. This is the only part where we're inviting someone.
Okay, man. All right.
Yeah, Malka comes along the bells of Rebbe.
We say that when everything, all the taich and tefillah is, if it was only Hashem who could understand, Shemoneh Esrei, then what would happen if Shemoneh Esrei is in Aramaic too?
Shemoneh Esrei is not in Aramaic, it's in Hebrew. If
What would happen if it was?
We'll discuss it when we learn some in Kuf Aleph. That's where it's
What would
discussed.
happen if it was? Then you wouldn't have a Yetzer Hara. You'd have less of a Yetzer Hara.
We'll discuss it in Siman Kuf Aleph. Comes along, answer number 3. Belz Rebbe says, we say halachman in Aramaic to demonstrate that Hashem is at the seder with us and He accepts all of our prayers that we're saying. The Gemara in Shabbos relates that the Malachim do not understand Aramaic. Yud Beis, Omid Beis, Ayin Sham in the Gemara. See there. This is why we don't daven in Aramaic. Right? Even so, a sick person is allowed to daven in Aramaic. You know why? Hashem is with the sick person, and He's going to accept his prayers personally. Similarly, halachmanyan is Aramaic in order to show that Hashem accepts our prayers. Once we show this, we can say the rest of the Haggadah. That's answer number 3. Answer number 4, as we already pointed out, halachmanyan has absolutely nothing to do with Yetzias Mitzrayim, nothing to do with the Exodus at all. This text was added later on. So therefore, we want to make a technical halachic difference in the Haggadah itself and be machalik. We want to show that there's a difference between the ikur, between halachma anya and the ikur mitzvahs asay of sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim. In other words, halachma anya is added after we're going to do in Aramaic. But the main positive mitzvah is discussing the Exodus. And therefore, that's going to be in Hebrew. That's why halachmanya is Aramaic. Reason number 5, why halachmanya is in Aramaic is the Rav Yah. He says that we just want to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. Noshim and ketanim, plenty of men. A lot of times, people just don't understand the Haggadah. I'm going to discuss this for a minute. Someone who doesn't know what the Haggadah is saying from the beginning and the end should sit down before Pesach and go through the entire Haggadah. Take every single word of the Haggadah. Take an English Haggadah, an interlinear or something. Take a Hebrew Haggadah, write in every single word that you don't know in the Haggadah. Go through the basic meaning of what the Haggadah is. Everything. Kaddish, Orchos, Karpas, Yachid, especially Magid, which is the longest. That is the main part of the seder in terms of the length. Rachs is an easy one. Moitzi Matzah is an easy one. Mother is an easy one. Kairich is an easy one. Kairich is relatively all short. Shulchan Aruch, nothing to do. Right? Hallel, not the most important, but still always good to know what's going on in Hallel. Nirtza also. Go through the beginning, everything before Shulchan Aruch. Go through it, understand what the Haggadah is saying. There's so many people, they go year after year, they run through the motions. They go, they say the words. Some people, they don't even say the whole Maggid. It's so terrible. People, they don't, you know why they don't say it? Because they don't even know what they're saying. So they're saying, what's the point of me saying if I don't even chop what I'm saying? If I don't understand it, what's the point? There's some reason, but they're still obligated to say it. Maggid is really the heart of the seder. And it's talking about everything that happened, all of the events, the whole history, all of the amazing things that Hashem did. It's incredibly important. You go through Maggid. You'll never regret it. Go through it. Unfortunate reality is that there are many people that don't understand what is being said at the Seder. This coincides with Tosefos that we quoted before on Berachos on Gimel Amud Aleph. Tosefos says that Kaddish is in Aramaic because Chazal, the rabbis, wanted everyone to understand what's being said. Similarly, the Ramah writes that the Seder leader is at the end of siman Taf Ayin Gimel. The person leading the Seder should say the Haggadah in a language that everyone understands. We'll come back to this more momentarily. Abar ben El asks, wait a second, why then is the rest of the Haggadah in Hebrew? According to what we just said, it should be in Aramaic in order that everyone could understand what they're saying. So we'll come back to that question that Abar ben El asks, and the Abar ben El will therefore give another answer in addition to this. But first and foremost, let's just discuss this for a minute. Someone who is leading a Seder, and he knows that not everyone at the Seder understands what is going on, read every single word of the Seder, and then after every few words, translate it. That's it. People have to understand what is being said. That's the point of the Seder. Instead of a person coming along and he's trying to say all of the seduction that he has, and he's going to say all of these incredible insights and advanced Torah ideas, forget about that. What's more important is people understanding the basic explanation. Probably they'll get lost anyways if they don't know how to read Hebrew. So you gotta just go through the basic explanation. In addition, you wanna spice it up and you wanna put in some of those insights. Fine. You gotta make it shavu l'chol nefesh so people can understand what you're saying. You have to know your audience, as the saying goes. But this is incredibly important, and it comes up in halacha over there, which we'll have to learn that siman again. But he learned the recordings of Rabban.com over there in Tafai and Gimel 473. But the idea is to understand, to go through it, speak about it. And when you speak about it, you could say your own ideas that come up also. I'm sure you're going to have ideas. Anyone who properly goes through the Haggadah, and when I say properly, I mean you say every single word of the Haggadah and you translate it, and you enunciate it, you verbalize. Anyone who does that will automatically start talking more, start thinking more about what's actually going. There's going to be a tremendous amount of comments, and that's what it's about. Unfortunately, sometimes the Seder could turn into a family reunion. Everyone's trying to catch up on this and that. That exactly is what the Seder is not supposed to be. Even during Shulchan Aruch, many great rabbis discussed the importance of speaking only about Torah and the Haggadah and Yetzias Mitzrayim. But I'm even talking about during the actual Haggadah. Fortunately, it happens during Maggid. You go from one conversation to another. Oh, behold, the Madon, the Malenu. Oh, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas. Okay, you want to talk about it a little, fine. But don't start going into the intricate details of the island that they're attacking. Are they going to go in on foot? Not all the whole Shakla V'Taya and all the London. It's not no get into the Seder. We know it's thousands of years ago. Says in the Haggadah, every generation they try to kill us for no reason. They try to make libels. No problem. Finished. Now talk about the actual content in the Maggid over there.
Even if you come back.
Also, after Manishtana, the questions, the Daled Bonim, Maggid continues. It's not just Daled Bonim, Manishtana, oh, Dayenu, oh, the Makos. There's stuff in between there. There's a lot of chashuv material over there to learn that properly, to talk about.
Based on the stance, you should say halachma in English or whatever language.
Yes, yes, and that is discussed in halacha in addition to the Hebrew doing English. That's the point of it. The sixth answer, because of this question of the Bar Banel, he offers the final answer, and I think that this answer is the cash. right over here. This is really bottom line. If you're going to come out with anything today, come out with this answer. Answer number 6, why lachma is in Aramaic, is because of the Abarbanel's question. The rest of the Haggadah should be in Aramaic so that everyone could understand it. Or in English. Comes along the Abarbanel and he says, you know why it's in Aramaic? Very simple. Lachma, the main real estate of lachma, not that it's very big, it's an invitation. It's inviting people who don't have food to get them in. Right? This is why specifically this area of the Haggadah is in Aramaic. Now, what's the obvious question on this? Everyone didn't know Aramaic back then. Yeah. So if they don't understand Aramaic, the poor people, how are they going to understand that invitation? Right. The answer is yes, but at the time of the Haggadah, that was their primary language. Right? So those are basically 6 answers as to why lachma is in Aramaic. From over here, we could segue into the next question. Why isn't the invitation of lachma before Kiddush at the beginning of the seder? Why is it when we're already in our house and are settled? Very simple. We want to get everyone to get settled. We're offering the invitation then, because if someone doesn't have a seder, this is when he's stuck. Right here and now. It's a simple answer.
No, that's after.
No. In other words, if a guy doesn't have an invitation, if a guy doesn't have somewhere to eat, he's going to get stuck now. He's not going to get stuck earlier. You understand?
He's going to get stuck now?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Meaning, when everyone's leaving shul, right?
Why don't we say
not
that?
Stuck yet. He could ask a lot of people. He'll probably get an invitation somewhere, right?
Yeah. Why don't we just say?
I remember around 10 years ago, we had around 20, 25 people at our seder. It was over here in the 5 Towns area, and we had our extended family also. And we brought home someone random from shul. We never saw him. He's not from here. And he joined our seder.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He joined the whole thing.
Who was this?
In Woodmere, Woodsburg. We brought him home. I think we davened Eish Kodesh that night. We brought him home.
Wow.
Yeah. We brought him home. He was there the whole time. So when people are leaving shul, that's usually when they get set up. I remember this past summer, there were 2 bachrim in the shul. One of them recognized me a little bit from around. And they came over to me and said, is there any program in the white shul to set up for Sudas and Shabbos? I said, no, not really. Well, what are you trying to? They basically said they needed a place to eat that night on Shabbos. This is before Mincha came 5 minutes early. Mincha, like I usually do, was one of the first people here, and this is at the last minyan in the shul. And they walked home with me. And I don't live close. I told them it's almost a mile walk. They said, okay, no problem. Happened to be hot that night. I feel bad. They were schwitzing a little, but so was I. But they had to walk back after. That's the only difference. But it was in the middle of the summer. I remember it was one of the hottest nights of the year. And it doesn't get that hot in New York over here, but it could get toasty. Not like not triple digits, but anyways, so not like Texas and Florida, but aquaponim, I brought them out. So if people need a meal, they're gonna probably get it then. The only question is after. I'd like to relate another answer that Rabbi Bender discusses in his Haggadah. The seder isn't just to retell the historic story of the Exodus. It's to tell it to our children. This is an evening that is dedicated to chinuch. All people say is Rabbi Bender. Educating our children and imbuing future generations with the light of who they are and what they represent. Sfas Emes says, why is it called the seder? We discussed this in the past. Order. You know why? This defines our home throughout the year. The seder teaches us who we are. If you're hungry, come and eat. That's not just a message for guests, that's a message for us. It's a mission statement. We're telling our children what we stand for. We are people who welcome guests. We are people who help others, and we see food as a means to satisfy others, not to just stuff our face and our mouths.
Is there any restriction?
Not just to enjoy ourselves if we're not providing the joy to others.
Is there any
Parshas
is there for
Emor
having seder on your
is
own?
called the Parshas HaMoadim. Why? Because the Parsha of Emor contains the halachas and details of the Yomim Tovim. Pesach, Sfiras Ha'omer, Shavuos. And then before going to Rosh Hashanah, there's a seemingly completely unrelated pasuk. Talking about we're talking about when you reap the harvest of your field, don't gather the gleanings of your harvest, leave it for the poor person and the stranger. Vayikra Chav Gimel.
I told you 100
What
times.
is this pasuk doing in the middle of Parshas Emor, the Parsha of the Moadim? We're talking about all the holidays, and then smack in the middle of nowhere, we're talking about reaping. What is going on over here? Rashi says, and this is telling us a crucial lesson. Person is going to give gifts to the poor. It's as if he built the Beis HaMikdash and brought a korban. That is the theme of this parsha of all the holidays. Beis HaMikdash, korbanos. You give to poor people as if you brought the korban. But perhaps there's another message. There's a Rambam that gets quoted all over the place in Hilchos Yom Tov in Vav Yud Ches. The Rambam says is that on Yom Tov, whenever we celebrate, how do we celebrate? We have to share that with other people. Share it with our family. But says the Rambam, someone who, so to say, is going to lock the gates of his courtyard and eat and drink with his children and his wife without feeding the poor? That's a very bad thing, says the Rambam. That's not Simchas Yom Tov. That's Simchas Kreisoi. That's not happiness for the holiday. That's a happiness for your stomach. That's you stuffing your face. The pasuk is in the middle of the parsha of the holidays. Why? It's a reminder. What gives the holiday its true happiness? What gives us true happiness? When we include others. That's a true celebration. When we open the seder with a message about who we are, what we stand for. The richness and bounty of the Yom Tov is meant to be shared with otherwise. Otherwise, it's nothing to celebrate. That's what's going on over here. That's what we have to realize. Questions, comments?
I was asking if it's just like, you have to dive in with a minion. If you have the means, you have to have the seder with someone else. It's usher to have the seder on your own.
No, you can have a seder by your own. If you know the option, you could.
Why isn't that, Hazal, why didn't they enact that it would be, it's
We're
to
going to
have it on your
discuss
own?
that on the next session in Mitzvah Hashem of lachma anya. We didn't answer that question, which there are over 20 answers that I'm aware of. Why specifically on the Seder and on Pesach do we invite poor people as opposed to any other holiday?
Mm-hmm.
Other holidays, you say, wait a second. But we have Matanas of Yoinim. We got to give to the poor. That's when we give to the poor. But on Pesach, we invite them into our house. Why? Why Davka Punkt on Pesach? Over 20 answers. That's going to be Monday, Mitzvah Hashem, 9:15. We'll see you then. Everyone have a good time. All right. Sounds.